Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Crash and Ride podcast. I'm Patrick Ferguson. I'm your host. Got to admit, I'm pretty stoked to be on episode 6. Things are going really well. I've gotten some feedback in the last few days from people who said, hey man, listen to your podcast. I heard myself in some of those earlier interviews, and it helped me contextualize some of the depression and anxiety I've suffered, and it's helped me kind of get a grip on some things, and I really appreciate it. And man, that's so huge to me. It means so much to me that I could actually help somebody's life. So, man, thanks so much. Thanks to our Patreon subscribers who have pledged to support the program on our Patreon page. You're keeping me going financially with that, and it helps a lot, and I'm stoked about it. And also thanks to our small handful of anonymous donors who hit us through the PayPal, who didn't want to get into the whole monthly thing with Patreon, just do a one-time contribution. Really appreciate it. If you're interested in either one of those things, please contact us via the Patreon page or hit us up at our email, crashandride@protonmail.com. Today's guest is Noelle Shuck, the guitar player and singer from the Athens-based punk rock band SheHeHe. After last week's episode, which was pretty dark, pretty heavy, I thought this would be a good time to put out this interview, which is a lot more fun and funny. We laugh a lot. We talk about sexism in punk rock and sexism in the music industry as a whole. We talk about her experiences and what a great band she's in. And, you know, it's a good conversation, and I had a really good time. She's a lot of fun, and she's a wonderful musician and wonderful person. It was great to have her. Although, one thing that's going to change going forward, if you've listened to the show a couple times, you know that at the end of the show I ask a series of questions. I'm working on getting those questions up to 10. Right now it's about 7. But the second one has been the same since the beginning. Tell me about the time that you were the most frightened. What is the most frightened you've ever been? And I've asked that question of people over the years just because it's a question I've been curious about, but mostly it's been guys. And when I asked Noelle that question, she predicated her answer with, I'll tell you about the time that I'm prepared to talk about. And then she told me about a time, well, you'll hear it in the interview, but I realized when I asked her that question that when you ask a woman that question, it's a different question. When you ask a man, what is the most frightened you've ever been, the answer is going to be like, oh, I got trapped in an elevator one time, or I was in a car accident, or I was in the back of a police car. And when you ask a woman that question, well, the answer is potentially going to be very different, and it's going to be about something terrible that was done to her by a man. And I don't want to ask my guests to relive that kind of trauma. So I'm changing the question. And a new question is going to be, tell me about a time that we were braver than you ever thought you could be. And that's just how it's going to be going forward. You may hear a couple episodes in the future that I've already recorded that have the old question, but know that I am trying to be better as a person, especially as a male person, and we're changing that question. In other news, Pinky Doodle Poodle, by the time you hear this, we'll have finished our run opening for 5/8 in Florida, and where I was playing 2 sets a night because I am also in 5/8. Many of you know this. But this is going to come out on Sunday, the 14th of April, and the next night, April 15th, Pinky Doodle Poodle is playing in Athens, Georgia, on the roof of the Georgia Theater, opening for Thelma and the Sleaze. And then we have a few days off, and we start our East Coast tour. We're going out to Brooklyn and Buffalo. Pinky Doodle Poodle's label's based out of Buffalo, so we're going to do a bunch of shows around there. Here are the dates that I have so far. April 25th, we're playing the Nightlight Bar and Grill in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, with the psychedelic rock band Lacey Jags. That is an amazing band. You should definitely come to that show. And I know it's right in the middle of Moogfest. If you can tear yourself away from the Moogfest celebrations and come see Pinky Doodle Poodle and Lacey Jags, it's going to be worth your time. April 27th, we're playing in Brooklyn at the Sakura Festival. That's a Japanese rock festival. There are going to be multiple stages. I'll have more details about what stage and what time we're playing. Before that, it'll be in the next podcast. April 28th, also the Brooklyn Sakura Festival in Brooklyn, New York. May 1st, we're in Canton, Ohio at the Buzzbin Art and Music Shop. May 3rd, we're at Milky's Elmwood Lounge in Buffalo, New York. And then May 4th and 5th, we're going to be playing at different stages at the Cherry Blossom Festival in Buffalo, New York. I'll have specific stages and times by the next podcast so that you can come catch us in Buffalo. If you're within the sound of my voice and we're playing your city, please come say hi and shake my hand. Let's hang out and talk it out. I also want to remind you that if you're having dark times and dark days and you're contemplating self-harm and you're having intrusive thoughts about self-harm, and you just need someone to talk to, I highly recommend calling the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. That's a 24/7 helpline. It's free. It's confidential. 1-800-273-8255. If you have questions for me or suggestions for the show or a question you'd like me to ask one of our guests, please feel free to email crashandride@protonmail.com. That email is confidential. It's encrypted. Nobody checks it but me. I'll protect your anonymity at all costs unless you expressly give me permission to say your name on the air. So please, know that I'm going to protect your information and that I'll respect your privacy. Okay, so let's jump into our interview with Noelle Shuck. Okay, we're here with Noelle Shuck from the band SheHeHe. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Man, so SheHeHe, Athens punk band. You guys have been together 14 years by my count.
8.
8?
8 or 9.
Oh, there was a Red and Black interview where someone said 11.
Oh, yeah.
It was in 2015. So I was just doing the math backwards.
Well, it's
8
okay.
years.
8 or 9 now. Yeah.
Cool.
Right. My senior year of college is when we started.
What did you study in college?
Graphic design.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you work at a graphic design place now?
At the Adsmith. I'm the art director, one of the art directors there.
And you've done all the artwork for the SheHeHe records?
Mm-hmm, most of it. Yeah, we have a couple things that we got our friend, like an illustrator friend, to do, but by and large, I'm responsible for that. The logo is my design and all that. So
I count 3 albums?
3 full lengths.
Right, and then a bunch of splits.
2 splits so
split
far.
EPs with Mea Culpa and with Spray Tan.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I really love.
You do your research. Look at that.
I really love the Hail Spray Tan shirt.
Yeah, Spray Tan. They're one of my favorite bands and peoples.
Yeah,
they're really solid.
And you have another good relationship with that Greek punk band.
Oh yeah, Barbed Wire Dolls.
And you guys wrote a song about them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
What's it called again? Five
Riot Surfer Party.
Really great. So they're from Athens, or?
No, they're from Crete.
Oh.
Yeah, they have like an artist commune on Crete where they like all surf, and it's crazy. They're awesome people, but
that sounds so great.
It's great. Yes, and the drummer Crash Doll was his nom de plume, I suppose. He's like a Olympic pole vaulter at one point in time. Yeah, just really interesting, good people.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you see the Anthony Bourdain where he went to Greece in the middle of the austerity riots?
Yeah. That was one of my favorite episodes.
Me too. That whole group of sort of Lysistrata inspired female activists was pretty cool.
Yes.
I was really
absolutely inspiring.
Yeah, and everybody smoked.
Yes. I think that's why he liked it so much. There.
Yeah, was a smoker.
He was, yeah. R.I.P.
So the sort of inexplicable or unexpected suicide of Anthony Bourdain is part of why I decided to do a podcast about depression and anxiety.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
cool.
among a lot of other reasons, but just like, I don't know if anybody saw that coming.
No, and I think that's I think people by and large have this vision of what depression looks like and like the signs of it and all of that. But I've experienced, through friends and people in the music community, so many different, like the way people are, and then like the next day they're gone.
Yeah.
Like there's just no formula to it at all, and you can't know, and it comes on really fast for some people too.
I think as you sort of explore people's last days, they make plans. It's almost as if they're working from 2 different mindsets. Like this is. You hear about people who are suddenly very calm after years of anxiety, and they clearly made a decision. But then there's people who just impulsively, apparently, make a decision that this is enough, and this is where I stop.
Right. Yeah. There's people like close friends of mine, dear friends of mine. One in particular recently where, like, I've been worried about them, and I've been like, well, but they have this thing coming up that they're doing, so like obviously that that's like my rationale to use to like not feel like they're gonna like make that choice, but then I think that doesn't actually mean anything because there's no like logic or reason to those thoughts, and like you can't control them, and also like on the level of Anthony Bourdain, no one's no one's safe from it. No one, like, there's no exemption from that. Like, as much powerful and as famous as you might be, and sometimes maybe that makes it worse, but like, he could have all the help in the world that he wants, but it doesn't.
Right.
But he's not. There's no like exemption from that feeling.
A kind of recurring theme for me in some of the interviews I've done, a couple which I haven't published yet, which are coming up, is that I don't think that fame is good for people's brains.
No, I don't think so. I don't think humans are meant to be put on that kind of pedestal.
Yeah, honestly, but also like, I think that one of the foundational sort of things that makes us happy is relationships that are meaningful.
Yes.
And family, and if you're estranged from your family, and a lot of people who become successful artists are, because you have to have a certain kind of drive and a certain kind of obsessive personality to become a successful artist. Yeah. And then you're surrounded by people, if you become Anthony Bourdain level of successful, that you don't know if their true motivation for starting or maintaining a relationship with you is one of ambition or one of actual genuine affection. And
right, yeah. Then I think that's where fame fucks a lot of people up.
A lot of people.
Like, yeah, not knowing what relationships are real, or just based on like superficiality and like status in a lot of ways. Like people that are really hungry for that, like to seem important or to be important, but not to do anything good for people, but just to have that status. I
project a lot of my own feelings about it into sort of looking at what happened with Kurt Cobain, but I often think that, like, Nirvana was a punk band that accidentally, they probably wanted to be about as big as the Melvins and somehow overshot.
Yeah. Because
there was a record company apparatus around them propelling them forward, and because you don't want to say no to people who've done kind things for you. It wasn't until after In Utero came out that I feel like Kurt Cobain began to contemplate backing down from the spotlight, but he had this partner in his life, the significant other, who was not going to have that.
Right.
It was not part of her plan to ever back out of the spotlight.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that was the trap that sort of led to him feeling like he didn't have any other options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting to think about what that defining moment might have been, where he realized, like, oh shit, I didn't think this was going to like either be how I thought it was going to be, or I didn't think I'd ever make to this point, and I actually don't really like it.
Right.
And like what it's doing to me, I don't like.
I mean, at some point I remember hearing a story that he bought a Volvo. Mm-hmm. Like the ultimate sort of like, I've arrived kind of bohemian car. Like He didn't buy a Jaguar and he didn't buy an Escalade. He bought a Volvo.
It's practical and comfortable.
And somebody gave him shit about it, and he was so sort of that he just took it back.
That's so fucked up.
Isn't it terrible to think about?
That. Like, why the fuck does anybody care who does what with their money? That's just bullshit.
Well, but it also plays into like the idea of you've got this sort of kernel of reality if you're surrounded by if you're fortunate enough to be successful, but then you get also sort of catapulted into the arena of famous.
Right.
Your reality becomes very immediate, I think.
Oh yeah.
These things are real, and then sort of out beyond whatever sort of perimeter of things or that you can count on, everything becomes very subjective because there's no like Bible or rule book for this. And John Bonham, who is my favorite rock drummer.
Yeah, he's otherworldly for sure.
He died thinking that he was irrelevant. He died thinking that he was a dinosaur. Literally, the word he used in one of the conversations prior to his death was that I'm a dinosaur. My time's come and gone. Because people were sort of fawning over Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
And this sort of early punk thing, and saying Led Zeppelin was no longer important.
But yeah. It's like it's a flash in the pan, like your 15 minutes of fame, but you never know like it's so fleeting. You never know what's going to come back around and like really impact people until much later. And I wish so many like people that were posthumously like the biggest influences of all time like could have been alive to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and like could have seen their influences on people that were like very good. And like, the reason that we play, you and I play music, are these people that never really understood how much they impacted people.
Impossible to contextualize yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine trying to do that either, but we stand on the shoulders of giants. So
I feel like, when we talk about the early punk thing, I feel like SheHeHe draws a lot of influence from the sort of first 6 or 7 years of punk after the 688 explosion. I'm not 688, that's the Atlanta CBGB's explosion.
Yeah.
As opposed to what came after, which is the sort of hardcore movement.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. It's we all come from different. We're a 3-piece now, so we all come from different. Well, even when we were a 4-piece, we still had a lot of different influences, and we came from different like perspectives and arenas of like rock and punk, and we never were like we're gonna be the CBGB. Like that wasn't ever like how we made music. It's just what comes out of us. But I definitely agree with that assessment. But at the same time, we get all different like eras of comparison of music in general too. Like
one of my sort of least popular opinions that I express sometimes to start angry debates is that hardcore kind of ruined punk because there was a sort of gender inclusive, not homophobic thing happening with X-Ray Specs and X, XTC and the Slits and all these sort of early punk bands, and then sort of hardcore happened and it turned into a big homophobic jock party.
Yeah, I can see that argument for sure.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I own a lot of hardcore records.
I mean, there's really good shit in hardcore punk. Yeah. But like, I don't think anybody that is a scholar of it or like would disagree with anything you just said. Like,
yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, like I'm Ian MacKaye, I'm a big fan of his work, but then when I hear him interviewed, he seems to be kind of not very spontaneous and kind of joyless. Yeah,
definitely. And there's a lot of hardcore that some of it I really love because it's like very energetic and like I understand the feeling of like angst and like the vocal like grabs me and it's great and it's dynamic. But there's also some that is just so like this one level the whole time through.
One dynamic.
It's not dynamic. It's totally like flat, and I can't really engage in anything that's like that because and that's not what I'm looking for in music.
Well, it seems to sort of lack a certain color and
vibrancy. or inspiration or something. It just whoever was making it wasn't inspired is how I feel when I listen to those kinds of records.
Yeah, a lot of the sort of post-hardcore stuff. Some of it is really brilliant. I love like Jesus Lizard, great band.
Oh fuck, I love Jesus Lizard so much.
But then like there's also a lot of stuff where I'm like, oh, it's a band full of instrument owners.
Right, yeah. It's Rigs of Dad, very Rigs of Dad.
Yeah,
like,
it's Rigs of Dad, but my generation of dad, not my dad's generation of dad.
Right.
Oh, you got a Dietz cabinet, and a GK RV.
Someone told you that was cool, so you bought it. And now it's like, if you bought a crate, but you're actually playing something through it that like meant something, that would be way cooler than you having this like boutique piece of equipment.
I remember at one point in the mid '90s sitting up in bed thinking, I guess you can have any bass as long as it's a precision.
P bass.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I was struggling to think of anybody who was using a bass that wasn't a precision or a jazz, and I couldn't. I mean, the Gibson Ripper was out there, but Gene Simmons kind of ruined that for everybody. Yeah,
unfortunately, for sure. I mean, something that SheHeHe does that comes from, not ignorance exactly, but like, I found myself, when we first entered into this, like having an idea of like what was the correct way to do things and like, but this band does this way, so this is what we need to do.
Orthodoxy.
Yeah, or just, status quo or what, and so we ended up being this band that really doesn't like give a fuck about that. It's like whatever. It's very pragmatic. It's like whatever works and sounds good is what we're gonna do.
I love the fact that you guys just 86 the whole idea of having a lead guitar player.
Yeah, well, we tried it and it did not work out.
Right.
So,
fuck
and
it.
Well, now we're a 3-piece.
Superfluous. Out.
Well, it's like you can, but I think a lot of the times it felt like it didn't fit.
Right.
And so we were, after our second lead player quit, we were like, well, let's just keep this a 4-piece, and it became much more straightforward punk rock, and I think it was much more effective and even more like accessible and engaging for people.
I made a record with Ed Stasium back in the day. He did every other Ramones record. He was Phil Spector's assistant engineer and then became the guy for the Ramones and all those early Talking Heads records and stuff. And he told me once that all of the leads, there's some very sparse leads on Ramones records, but they were all him.
Yeah.
Like Joey and Johnny didn't play any leads. He was all bar chords on those.
Yeah, him and me have that very much in common.
Yeah, and I think that's really, it's very effective that you guys are really, I think, direct, immediate, emotionally accessible band.
Yeah, and like the word we get, like the word that people use a lot is the most, almost every time, is fun. Like, you guys are so much fun. Like,
full
fuck
stop.
Yeah, if I want to be anything, that's what I want to be. I want people to like enjoy listening and watching us play music.
Yeah.
So, but like going back to the equipment thing, like right now, my friend David Brown he was in Car Bomb, and I've known him for a long time, but when we were first starting out, he gave me this head that he wasn't using anymore, and it's an Ibanez Tone Blaster, solid state, like, you know, and not, like it's not a Marshall, it's not any of the like things that guitar players really like nut over.
Right.
But it's like what I could use at the time. So,
sure.
But now I have
and probably absolutely bulletproof.
Yeah, no, I mean it's that old.
Drag it behind the van to the gig and play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we're running our bass through it, and it sounds fucking badass.
Yeah.
So it's like shit like that. It's like people look at us when we like sometimes bring our equipment, and I feel like the sound people are just like, that's a what now? And then they plug it and we plug it in, and it sounds so good.
It's all that matters.
It doesn't matter. It's so, you know, and there's, you know, there are places and merits to all this fancy equipment, but when it comes down to it, like, I just care if it sounds good. Right. I don't care what it is.
Well, that's my rule about mixing when I make records, which I haven't done much of lately. But
I think that has to be the rule. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself insane.
Right. If it sounds right, it's right.
Yeah, that's absolutely fucking correct.
Sometimes you play through a solid state amp.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you put tea towels on the drums.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you play the broken China Crash. But
that's right. Sometimes that cymbal with the crack in it is exactly the sound you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell me about your early life. Where'd you grow up?
I was born on Hawaii.
What?
Yeah. Maui. My parents were not like military parents at all. They just both really liked it. So they met and had me. And so I spent the first 5 or 6 years of my life on Hawaii. And I've been back since, you know, visiting friends and stuff. But my parents got divorced and moved to Atlanta, which is where my mom's mom lived at the time, and my grandfather. And lived for like 2 or 3 years in Atlanta. And then my mom and my stepdad re-met. They were high school sweethearts, and they got married. And he owned Junkman's. He owns Junkman's, I guess, because that's still a thing. It's a thing again.
Yeah.
So we moved up here, and that was like the 4th grade. So I've been here since the 4th grade. Long time now. A seemingly long time.
Yeah. So you're like essentially kind of as close to an Athens native as most people ever get.
Yeah. I feel like I've definitely like assimilated into the culture.
Right. So Mark is your dad?
Yes. Mark
I
is
didn't know
dad.
that. That's a little bit of Athens Arcana.
Shout out.
Yeah. So when did you start playing music?
I was 8.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been singing since like maybe before I could talk.
Right. So
I've always been singing, but yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 8. My stepdad would come Mark would come down to Atlanta and hang out with my mom and me on the weekends, and he brought me like this little it was an Amigo, like kids guitars, like nylon strings, and I started learning like chords and stuff. And you know, I kind of just stuck in the open chord land for a long time and didn't get much better after that until I started playing in a band. So
well, one of my favorite guitar players is like open chords took it to fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like, so I use some open chords even still in SheHeHe, like,
right.
It's electric and it's distorted, obviously, but it definitely lends the distance can be good sometimes for what we're doing. So,
I mean, it's a sort of the Sonic Youth approach, like just have like a gazillion guitars on stage and you can do whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I was sort of looking through, just doing a little bit of research, and it seems like SheHeHe has been the band for you.
Yeah, it's my only band. So, I was in one for like 6 months before when I was like 17 or something. Right. I played bass and I sang, but that wasn't really anything to speak of.
It's remarkable though, like 6 months of like, you know, garage band, and then boom, you're in the band that becomes sort of your career. Yeah. That's a very punk trajectory.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know like how else to do it. It was the path that like fit and made sense, and I never really found myself. Well, we were just like the three of us, me, Jason, and Nicole, have always been just such a solid unit. Right. That there's no reason for me to like look anywhere else or do anything else. I have another project now that's a side project that's like nothing like SheHeHe will ever be. It's like acoustic and piano and stand-up bass, and it's, you know, that kind of like pretty. Right. But yeah, this has been my bread and butter.
Yeah, I feel like sort of, you know, before we were sort of punk pre-hardcore, and increasingly so sort of post-hardcore, whatever we're in now, doesn't seem to have a lot of the sort of gender issues that the hardcore era and everything that preceded it did, with sort of innate sexism and performance and venues and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not overt anyway. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with the genre of music. I think like what we're in now is it's just societal at this point.
Yeah, I interviewed Tierney Tuff on the Pauses on my second podcast ever.
Nice.
She's great.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how I feel like sort of my generation, Gen X men, are kind of trainable. Like we came up with a lot of bad ideas about gender, and especially around performance and rock and roll.
Yeah.
But that like most of us, having had a background in bands like Fugazi or whatever, kind of understand that there's a right way and a wrong way to think about things.
Totally.
And that like millennial men have sort of been raised and socialized with this idea that like, you know, gender is fluid and sexism is bad, and you know, it's not like a brand new idea. And of course, there's a tiny percentage of them that resist it and become, you know, trolls online and that kind of thing.
Or like incels, or you know, that whole like fucked up group of people.
Yeah, but boomer men are just never gonna.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Actually,
they're gonna die mad about it. You know.
Yeah, I don't.
How come they can say the N-word and I can't?
Oh man.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, and I've experienced boomer men, and a few of them like gotten to be friends with them and like gotten to know them and like was able to break it down, and like, because I'm never trying to be condescending at all. Like, I'm just trying to like this is my lived experience and this is what I've experienced, and like, so if we can just be honest with each other, like this is how I'm feeling about like the way we treat women and what I see on a you know, when we go to shows, daily debut, even just my own daily life, like this exists, it doesn't not exist, and you can ask any woman and she will tell you the same thing. So like it would behoove you to stop pretending that it's not a problem. Asking
women is a big step.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started dating my wife, we lived in Chicago, and she would tell me I hate going anywhere by myself because
I can't even imagine in Chicago.
We were living in a on the north side, sort of out from like past Wrigleyville, past Lincoln Park, up north side, working class area.
Yeah.
A lot of Latino people living there, and when she would go just to the corner to get stuff from the Rogers Park Fruit Market was right there, she'd get catcalled.
Yeah, yeah.
And she told me this was happening, and I was like, yeah, okay. It might have happened a couple times.
No, it's probably every time.
Well, like I said, Gen X men, we're trainable. Like, I went with her. We went to go get a burrito, and because I'm not a city person, and she's urban. She grew up in downtown Indianapolis, and she knows that, you know, you don't run out against the walk sign. And I do that. Right. Like if I don't see cars coming, I'll dart out.
Oh,
but,
man.
You know, sometimes people come around corners and they run over dumbasses like me.
Yeah.
So I dart across the street and look back, and she's on the corner, and she was by herself for literally 15 seconds before someone went, "Hey, baby!"
Yeah.
Like that long. I was like, holy shit.
It's real.
Yeah. Well,
but like I've had the catcalling conversation with a lot of my friends, and my question always is like, have you ever seen a woman be catcalled? And they're always like, most of them have said no. And I'm like, that's because you're around.
Right.
Like they're not, if you guys are clearly associated with each other, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But if you remove yourself from that situation and like are just like a fly on the wall, it's going to happen. And I don't know. I think it's like seeing is believing is this situation, and with a lot of issues that, you know, we can talk about with relating to women and sexism. But like, if you don't see it, you don't think it happens, or you don't think it happens as severely as it does, even though like everybody's telling you that it's a problem and we need to address it. So
yeah, it's the whole believe women thing is really it's a powerful message that I don't know why so many people are not receptive to it.
I mean, like, yeah, almost even the people that want to be perceptive to it or receptive to it, like they really do want to believe women. Still, you'll have conversations with the people and you're like, yeah, but you're not, like, this is an example of when you should believe women, like the whole Kavanaugh like mess.
Right.
There were so many people that like you're either devil's advocating or you believe this man based only on his gender, like, not because there was very credibility like rested with her, like cool, like calm, collected, even though she was reliving like one of the worst fucking nights of her life.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this motherfucker over here, and obviously I'm biased, but like he acts like a lunatic and he breaks down and he's emotional, and it's like like he's displaying qualities that you would describe a woman as having and then discredit her because of, and yet we still believe him. And that blew me away.
It's all about masculine branding with hysteria.
Yeah, right. And it's like hysteria. Okay, right. That's that comes from a woman's reproductive system. Like when a woman is like being hysterical,
right?
That's a very gendered word, and it's like.
Well, it's funny. I mean, imagine if John Rambo had just been able to fucking walk away.
Yeah.
Like there would have been no movie franchise.
Yeah, right.
Dude, just get over it. Go home.
Yeah.
Like
there's nothing for me here anymore.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go home.
Bye. See
ya.
ya.
World's shortest film. So does that sort of? I mean, I've read some interviews with you guys where like we're not an overtly feminist band, but just our very existence in a way becomes a feminist statement. Do you still stand by that? That was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. I think more and more. Like the more things we do, and like the more people become aware of us and like enjoy us. Right. Because I'm not putting the words in my bandmates' mouths, of course, but I mean, we all want equal rights for everybody. Sure. So, and like becoming a political band is a choice, and it leads you down certain roads that maybe you don't want to deal with. Like we just want to write music and play music and like make friends and have fun and and affect people on that level. But I think whenever I do that and I connect with people, I'm going to talk about this, and I think people and women are inspired when they see me and Nicole, doing the thing.
Well, it's interesting. Nicole had a baby. Yeah. How long ago was that now?
Almost 3 years. She'll be 3 in May.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When's her birthday?
May 19th. Joey Ramone's birthday.
Yeah. I think it might also be Ryan from Kindercore's birthday.
It is. Because we did this podcast. I did the podcast with him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's his birthday and someone else. Who is it?
Somebody.
Pete Townsend?
Maybe. I don't know. But when a guy has a baby, or you sort of, even with the Gen X bands that I've been in, when somebody like had a kid, there was this like, well, I guess that does it for this band. Oh man, for the guy, and I've always sort of fought that because like, why would you stop just because you had a kid? Of course, now it's different. I think a lot of people sort of recognize that having kids isn't like some killer of art. I think maybe... No, in a lot of ways it's a creator of art. Right. I mean, it should be. Well, I think a part of that is that for some people, the idea of being in a band is kind of about like the sort of dissolute life of beer drinking and staying up all night. Yeah, but it can be so much more rich than that. And it should be much more rich than that. Like if that's all you're doing, I feel bad for you. Yeah, most of those bands suck too. Right. Yeah. It's very one-dimensional. Yeah, let's be honest. Yeah, no, you're totally right. Yeah, we're not, I mean, we did and still do like get fucked up and party, but that's never been like the reason we exist. That's kind of, it's like a it's a perk of what we do, but it's not why we exist. And I think even if Nicole wasn't in the band and Jason had and they had a kid and she wasn't part of the band, he would still be doing it because that's just an understanding that they have as a couple. Like, does the baby ever travel with you guys? Always. Oh man, I'm so jealous. Yeah, we have band nannies that come along. I mean, we've talked about it. If I ever got the gig that would support it, I would definitely bring my wife and sweet daughter along. Yeah, it's really great because we get to like these young. Our band names are usually like pretty young kids, and they're all fantastic, but they get to like travel to different cities and hang out with Ramona, and we get to hang out with Ramona, and she's really great, and she's gotten better in the van, but it's a great experience, and she is one of the coolest, smartest, most engaged children because she gets to travel and meet people, and like that, I think traveling is how you become a well-rounded good person because you learn to like respect and identify that people might be different from you, but they're still people. Man, I wish I could remember the exact Mark Twain quote. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. It's like travel being fatal. Travel is the antidote to xenophobia, essentially, something prejudice, like that. Yeah. No, it's a great quote. It is, and that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. My daughter yesterday, she asked me, "Daddy, will you make a list of all the things you want me to be when I grow up?" And she handed me a piece of paper and a pencil, and I said, "Sweetheart, I only want you to be one thing when you grow up. Do you know what that is?" And she went, "A musician." No. I was like, "No, sweetie, it's happy." Oh man! You're like, what have I done? Oh no! Why did you have this idea? I've been thinking about it ever since. She's like, oh no! She was so like, I know you want me to play music, Dad. I'm like, I mean, I kind of do, but like, but only because I know you'd be so fucking good at it. Oh man,
You know?
she's gonna have perfect musician hands.
Ramona,
Yeah.
holy fuck, dude! She's like already like playing drums. She sings. She makes her own songs up. She's 2.5.
That's great.
Yeah, she's incredible.
My kiddo's got some sensory stuff with loud noises.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't really dig. And it gives me sort of seeing how she's really not into loud drums and stuff. It's given me some empathy for, and I play in this thing with Mike Mills where we go and play with symphonies. And
I love Mike Mills.
yeah, he's a really sweet guy. I would ask him to do this podcast, but I don't think he's ever been depressed in his life. But
Well,
we go.
I haven't either, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, I mean, just being in a female-fronted punk band, you have
Yeah,
some
I have things to talk about. For
unique
sure.
insight, and I'm sure that Mike. I'll talk to Mike. Maybe we should have Mike on. But
Definitely don't discard it out of hand. Like,
and you never
'cause
know.
he'd be
Like,
a good one.
I did Phil Smith this week, my drum teacher, and I would have told you that he seemed like someone who'd never had a bad moment in his life because he's so together, and he was like all contraire.
It's
monsieur.
a mask, yo.
Yeah, let me come talk to you. And turns out he had crippling anxiety for years.
No.
So, but the thing we do with Mike, we play with these symphonic musicians, and when I'm setting my drums up, I just think, oh, man, some of these kids, the loudest thing they've ever heard is an alarm clock.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that like maybe some of them have the thing that my daughter does, which is that loud noises are really upsetting for her. Like, I don't really practice. You see, my drums are here in the living room, but I don't practice when she's home. It's too
Yeah, of
much.
course.
And I think a lot of that, she came from pretty troubled circumstances, but
Sure.
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you guys take Ramona with you.
Yeah, we take her with us. She we practice twice a week, and it's at Jason and Nicole's house. And either Nicole's mom will come over, or one of Nicole owns a yoga studio in Commerce called Beach Hill. That's her last name is Beach Hill.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's play on words, but one of the yoga instructors there will watch her on Wednesdays, or their neighbor that lives like right will take her for an hour.
Yeah.
And so me and Jason and Nicole will do like the set, and then we'll work on like a new one, and then Nicole will go, and then Jason and I will work on more new stuff.
You guys sound like you're really structured.
We are very structured, yeah. And it's like, so we practice for 2 hours tops, but we get all this shit done.
Yeah.
And it's great. And Jason and I are really, really good at writing together.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't take a lot of like fucking around and like playing this thing 17 times and whatever. Like, we have a very solid idea of what we want.
Yeah.
And that comes from Jason writing a lot on his own too, and then bringing it to me, and then we'll like arrange it and I'll put vocals on it, or like other vocals or harmonies or whatever. So it's a very good structure, and I think it works really well for all of us.
You guys sound like a machine.
We kind of are at this point a machine. We have an entire record in the can. We're ready to drop, but we're trying to figure out how to do it. We're trying to figure out how to like shop it around, and like
everything you have so far is on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
But then there's the thing with the South Carolina label, 10 Foot
Woody.
10 Foot Woody.
Which is not a thing anymore.
Oh. I wondered how you could have a record that was on their label but also on your Bandcamp page.
Yeah, because it was like sort of like a freshman effort even.
Right, sure. That was Rock and Roll Queen, right?
Yeah, it was Rock and Roll Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good experience for sure.
Right.
But it was just short lived. So
I really love Bandcamp.
I do too.
I think it's the best thing to happen to musicians ever.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
So you guys, their Bandcamp is SheHeHe.bandcamp.com.
Yes, that's right.
SheHeHe.bandcamp.com.
Yes.
And everything is there.
Phonetic, yeah.
Tell me about the song Costa Rica Dreamin'.
So Nicole and Jason went to Costa Rica. Most of our songs are, if not all of them, are all written from experience.
Okay.
And so it's about their trip to Costa Rica, and
Man,
like
I love that. I've only been there once.
We all come from beach. Like we all have
you're
this
from
like
Hawaii.
From Hawaii. They're from South Florida. Both of them are from South Florida. That's where they met. Also. So we all have this thing for the ocean and the beach and like waves, and that's why Endless Summer, which was our last full length we put out, was named after the surf documentary. Sure. And we used to have a TV and like a DVD player in the practice room, and we would just play it on a loop whenever we would practice. Like it was just always in the background.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Do you surf?
Yeah. I do. I love surfing.
I'm terrible at it.
Oh, but isn't it fun though?
But I don't think I've ever had more fun than surfing. Just getting beaten up, like
pounded by waves.
Yeah, but just loved it.
Yeah, it's the best feeling.
So historically, when I've had friends who were women who played music, they would walk into music stores and they would get really shabbily treated. But that was also the sort of last generation of boomer rock guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still occasionally walk into a guitar shop and be condescended to, no matter your gender. But I feel
definitely
like
happened to me.
yeah, tell me about that.
I don't even remember the exact experience because I just like put it out of my head so quickly because
Yeah.
I had to get things done. But I was in there. I think I was looking for some pickups. Like I had at the time just like single coils, and I wanted some like humbuckers for like
Sure.
because this was early days also, which
Right.
I didn't know a lot at that
What
point.
was your first guitar?
It was a Fender Strat. It was
Yeah.
it was a 70s Strat. It was like one of the last American made.
Wow.
Very, very nice fucking guitar, but did not produce the sound that we
Right.
needed.
Doesn't really
at
roar.
all. No, it doesn't roar.
Yeah.
And I couldn't palm mute on it because it was like long and the action was anyway. So it's all those things. And so I was like, I was just like thinking about replacing the pickups in it, which I'm glad I did it now. But so
Right.
I was in there and I was just like asking about. I didn't know anything. I was just in there asking about stuff and
How old were you at this point?
I was probably 22 or 3.
Yeah.
I'm 29 now, so I
Right.
have learned some things, but so of course, I mean, you see this like, I don't know if I looked 22. I don't think it would have mattered, but it was just like, clearly you know nothing, and I'm going to treat you as if you know nothing, which is sometimes okay because I want to learn, but I also like, there's a certain way to do that with respect.
Right.
And that's not how that went.
No.
So, and it was,
Was that a music store here in Athens?
no, it wasn't. It was in Atlanta,
Yeah.
which I'm happy, but I grew up with Ed.
Yeah. love it.
Like, so
Yeah.
I couldn't.
That's Ed from Musicians.
and I knew,
Warehouse.
and I knew all the guys that worked there, and they were always very fucking nice to me.
Right.
And I would just go in there to like hang out.
Good bunch of guys.
Yeah, it was a great bunch of guys. So no, it would never be that. But it was just like,
I guess we're really lucky in that respect in Athens.
Yeah, I
we
think
have
so.
a music store with that kind of took on some of those non-hierarchical attitudes of the early, like, punk thing.
Yeah.
Even though, like, and in many ways, I consider REM to be a punk band, not because of anything about their music, but
just their attitude.
they just do so equitable. Everyone, it's a very equitable split on everything,
Yeah.
and it's very non-hierarchical, and it reminds me of like the Durruti column, and not the band the Durruti column, but the actual Durruti column of the Spanish Civil War, which was a anti-fascist military unit with no commander.
Yeah, and I think that's how you have to handle that kind of thing, honestly. But
Yeah.
this is not music related, but very similarly. So I'm a bowler. I bowl
Really?
avidly. Yes.
That's really cool.
I love it.
What's the best bowling alley here in Athens?
Well, there's only one.
Just-
okay,
but
there's
there's-
2 now, but
Right.
one I don't. So, man, this is gonna get into like some jargon, but
That's okay. I'm here for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Macon Highway 1 Showtime Bowl.
Yeah.
That's where we bowl. It's 32 lanes. It's
Sure.
they remodeled it recently. So that's the bowling alley. Then there's 10 Pins, which is now the Homewood Social, which is right. It's in Homewood Hills.
Right.
And they just reopened that, but they didn't resurface the lanes, so they're old wood.
Right.
They don't oil them.
Oh gosh.
Like, so they're not kept up. And like for like if you're like a league bowler or give a fuck about it at all, like
Right.
I have like probably 12 bowling balls.
Man, I hit that fucking lane on the other side of the line once accidentally. And my leg shot out from under me. Like,
Yeah.
they seriously oil those lanes.
Yeah, you have to, because if you don't, what happens is like because we tried to bowl over there after it opened again.
Yeah.
Like I threw my plastic ball, like, which is for the layperson, like it's just supposed to go straight. It's not supposed to curve. There's no reactive resin on the end of it. It's just supposed to go straight.
There's a lot of science here I
It doesn't
wasn't
hook.
aware of.
Bowling is
Yeah.
purely a physics sport.
Right.
So, but my plastic ball, which is supposed to just go straight, hooked the entirety of the lane, like before it even got to the pins. So that just to tell you,
Right.
like, if you are a bowler and you like to bowl, like if you like to hook your ball, if you're into that, then don't go there and
you go to
expect that.
Showtime.
You go to
Yeah.
Showtime. Yeah.
So the other one's more of a beer drinking bowling alley.
Yeah, and it's great. Like I really just
Right.
love hanging out there, and I go like once every couple of weeks, and just like they have darts and they have shuffleboard and they have cornhole, and it's a great atmosphere and great staff.
How many bowling balls did you say you own?
I have like 12 at this point.
Holy
probably.
shit.
I mean, that's not even like. So my best friend Jay is the one that got me into bowling, and he
Right.
has probably in the 30s at this point, because we go to tournaments and professional, like we go to professional women's tournaments, and they give us balls.
I'm sitting across from you as a person who owns 11 drum sets, so I really don't have
Yeah,
any.
you understand, but I
Yeah.
only own 2 guitars though.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
That's also that's there's a bunch of questions I ask at the end of the interview that
I see. Okay,
and that comes up
like lightning round stuff.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But so this guy condescends to you totally about pickups.
Right. So I go to this pro shop because I'm
Right.
trying to get my thumb insert
Right.
like re-drilled because it's not quite seated right. The pitch isn't right. And so I go in. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you know,
This is really
you know about
fascinating.
the thumb pitch.
Sure, of course.
So I go in there and I'm just like, hey, I need this thumb insert, whatever, like re-drilled. It's not quite seated correctly.
Right.
And he's like, oh, okay, are you here with your dad? Or because he saw me walk in with Jay and our bowling friend Harvey. He's like, is that your dad and your boyfriend? Like, can you get them to come in here? And I was like, no, I don't. There's no fucking reason for me to do that. I know what I need. Can you please help me do this? And he was just like assuming that like I needed some like, you know, like you don't need to talk to these people. You can talk to me about it.
Talk to the bowler.
If you know, oh, and they're both bowl, but it's like I'm the bowler that needs the thing.
Right.
And they don't know anything more about what I need than I do.
Right.
And like if you're actually able to serve your customers, then you should be able to talk to me about what I need. And
do you find that you get sort of guff from sound engineers?
No.
That's great.
But we've only ever worked with fabulous sound engineers. So.
Yeah.
I
mean, Slater Kenny had a whole book about garbage sound engineers.
I can't imagine, but also like, so we work with Jay Matheson up in Columbia at Jam Room Studios, and he's one of my favorite people to work with, just because he's pragmatic. He's like, well, if it sounds good, then it works, and he's willing to try all kinds of things. But he helped me dial my tone in on the setup I have now.
Sure.
And ever since, like, we worked together on that sound, every time I go to record, the engineer's like, well, I could turn some knobs and pretend like I'm helping, but this sounds really good the way it is. Like, that's been the reaction every time since then, which I really appreciate. You know, it's like, thank you for not, you know, feigning to know more or like have a better idea of what tone it is, because I really love this tone. And if they had, of course, like had recommendations for something else, then I would have taken them. But, you know, I just not into posture.
Right.
Is important.
I think that any advice given in good faith is useful, or suggestions. And I hate the word advice because I'm kind of anti-advice. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, that is.
I just feel like most of the time people giving advice are talking to their past or future selves and not really to you, or they're trying to control your behavior,
or they're just trying to hear themselves talk.
Right.
You know.
Well, as a podcast host, I don't have.
Yeah, but you get to hear other people talk to you.
That's kind of I'm learning.
It's like half and half. You know, it's a good split.
Yeah, there's the experience, strength, and hope is the thing that are useful to other people. Advice is not so much. But,
strength and hope for sure. I'm a big arbiter of both of those.
Yeah.
For the friends in my life when I can, and I definitely appreciate it more than ever when I'm given it. So
I feel like there's a lot of joy in SheHeHe's music.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way for sure. I feel joy when we play. So.
Yeah. I guess my sound engineer question wasn't so much about recording, because I knew you guys have worked at the Jam Room, and he's great.
He's so great.
Yeah, but I was thinking more about live sound.
Oh, live. Okay, so no, never. Well, we've had like gruff, and like gruff live engineers, sure, but I don't think that had anything to do with my gender necessarily. I think like they were just kind of, because they were like that to everybody.
Yeah.
I do remember my first experience with Gene Wolfhook.
Yes.
You know, who is one of my dear friends now, and I love him.
I mean, I only use his music for the podcast.
Really?
Yeah. If you hear this back, like the intro and the bumper and the outro are all Powder Room songs off the first record.
God,
I'm a huge fan.
That was such a great band.
But yeah, I've also seen him kind of be a jerk to bands.
I mean, I don't know, like he wasn't ever a jerk to me necessarily, but I also like was like very young, like when like our first interactions were like me being very young, not knowing like what I was doing so much. And so like one of the first interactions we had, like he was miking my amp and I played something, but his like head was right by it, you know, and it's like that's fucking fine to be angry about. That's a shitty thing. But that was again just like me just being real green. Yeah. So
there's a lot of things that I think no one ever sits young bands down and says things like,
"There's no book.
Don't disassemble your drum kit
on stage.
If you're the middle band or the or opening band, get your shit off the stage."
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm waiting to play and I see you start spinning wing nuts on the top of your cymbal stands, we're going to have a discussion.
Well, and I also think sound engineers, like live ones, I think they have to deal with so much bullshit from so many different people on a regular basis that, I mean, I wouldn't have the patience to do that.
Someone should write a book.
There's no book. Yeah. Where's the handbook for bands?
I mean, Thor Harris has been really great about, like, this is how you tour.
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah, and we figured out the assembling, disassembling pretty quickly. Like, we're pretty pro at it these days, loading and unloading. Like, I feel like that's one of our like
strengths.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like we get in and out, and we're not in anybody's way, and we help people put things on stage, and we help people
Sure.
let things out, and like whenever you can do, because you
Man, as a
appreciate
drummer,
that help.
As you're standing on stage and someone brings you your drums, that cuts down on your switch over.
Yeah,
time.
and that's what we do now. Then like Jason
Yeah.
we had to have that discussion with Jason. He was like, "What I need to happen is bring me my things, and then like I'll assemble while y'all assemble, and it'll be much more efficient. And by the same token, help me get everything off the stage, and then get your things off the stage because it's just less items."
This is like Punk Rock 101. I guess somebody should, maybe we can get Mike Watt to write a book about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll draw some diagrams. Fuck.
Yeah, man, that's it's such an integral part of like getting it right.
Yeah, and it is, and people take you seriously when you know what you're doing, or at least care. Yeah, as pretend to, or like just common sense shit. Like,
do you feel like there's a punk scene anymore?
Yeah, I do for sure.
Yeah, I don't think. I think there's a lot of like haters my age who are like, it's dead, doesn't exist anymore. But I think it's
I don't agree with that at all.
You just started going to bed too early.
Or it's like it just sounds and looks different. Yeah. But there's so many new bands in town now that I'm really excited about, like Rottweiler, which was Joe Dakin from American Cheeseburger. Cool. He just started a new band that fucking rips.
I'm sure.
They're so great.
Everything he's ever done has.
Yeah, and it's, Jason Griffin, any band, Apparition, like any band he is ever in, I'm just such a fucking fan of. Yeah. We've just got a lot of like, I think the punk scene is alive and well, and like maybe it's a broader term for like things you could subgenre the fuck out of, but that's
good though.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
I mean, I feel like the last few years we've seen this explosion of people who are like gender non-binary or all woman bands, or that this incredible like diversity that I think we're finally sort of we've outlived that kind of gender normative hardcore thing that makes me so angry that it just sort of
No, I think you're absolutely right.
I mean, the Gossip, I don't know if they're still doing stuff, but that was a real exciting band to see.
They're not, I don't think, but I really like that.
Yeah.
Too.
And, my friend Steven Soley is usually out with somebody cool. Yeah. He's a tour manager. He also had a band called Fake Limbs, and I'm always checking in on who he's out with. Yeah. Tyranny, who was the bass player from the pauses I had recently. Yeah. She's sometimes bass player in the War on Women.
Oh, fuck. I love that band so much. I saw them with Propagandhi in Pensacola a couple of years ago.
So right now they're out with Jawbreaker and this band from Tampa called Pogo. You ever seen Pogo?
Yes. I love everything that they are doing. And I think they're such a great... They were at Fest, and they had hats that said... Make America Feminist for once. Yeah. Shit like that.
And they got into that big confrontation with the Dickies, which we've talked about a couple of times on this podcast. And I think that they really, the principled stand they took and then refusing to back down, which I think is really important.
Well, a principle doesn't mean anything if you don't, you know. I mean, that's the whole point of the word.
Don't give a fucking inch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outstanding. Well, when we sort of finish these episodes, the last thing we do as we're winding up is I do 6 questions. Okay. It started as 5. Now it's become 6. Hopefully I'll get 10. It's sort of loosely based on the Bernard Pivot 10 questions, which are the ones that James Lipton uses at the end of Actor Studio, which most people are familiar with. Okay. But I think that the fact that people are familiar with them, I had to come up with some of my own because otherwise people have been thinking about these answers.
Similar
already.
Template, though.
Yeah. So, it's 6 questions, and I'm happy to narrow them down if you'd like, but I really kind of want your first answer that pops into your mind. Okay. Cool? Yeah. All right. First question. What's your favorite meal that you've ever eaten?
Beef burgundy.
Is there... That's funny. That's mine, too.
Really?
Yeah, but there's a specific time that I had it. So,
yeah.
Tell me about your...
So it was one of my boyfriends, my boyfriend and no, please no. That's not like, ooh, yeah, I have a stalker, which we didn't cover, but anyway, so.
Wait, then we should talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
You do have a stalker.
Yes. Well, I had one and I haven't heard from him in a while, but,
how did this person make themselves apparent to you at first?
He was
social media?
No, he was, it was a show. It was at a show and he like came up to me. And I don't know if he knew who I was beforehand or whatever. And he handed me this like thing, and he was like, "Hey, this is for you."
Oh boy!
And it was, I mean, it was fine. It was just a thing. It didn't matter what the thing was. It was fine. But then he just started like obsessively, like messaging me on Instagram privately. Like every day, it'd be like 4 or 5 messages, and I didn't. At first, I responded because it was like really like.
You don't want to be
non-threatening. Like it was like kind of normal at first. So I was nice enough.
Yeah, I think predators kind of count on people's desire not to be rude, to insinuate
right.
themselves.
And women hate being like, we're getting there, but like,
right.
There's this line in, I forget what it is, but it's always, I'm amazed at what women will do to try not to appear rude.
Yeah.
It's like, it's from Kimmy Schmidt, one of the women that he abducts.
My wife taught Titus.
Yeah, I did theater with Titus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But she's like, how did you end up in the bunker? And he's like, well, he invited me out to his van to see some baby rabbits, and I didn't want to be rude. And then because it's like in a news interview after the fact, after they get out.
Sure.
And the anchor's like, I'm always amazed at what women will do to not be rude.
Yeah. So you were nice to this guy.
I was nice enough. Like, I was like, oh, hey. He was like, that was a great show. I was like, oh, thanks so much. Like, appreciate it. And then it just got kind of weirder from there.
Then it spiraled.
Yeah. And so I had blocked him on social media because it was like literally hundreds of messages over the course of, a month or two.
Yeah.
And they just didn't stop. And I didn't block him because I wanted to kind of keep an eye on what the fuck he was up to.
Because you have to be your own defense.
Yeah, you really do. And so we were playing. Actually, it's this is what made me think of it. It's Hammerhead Fest is this weekend. We're playing.
Right.
My friend Amos puts it on. He's in charge of an incredible production company in Atlanta. But so we were playing, and we were on with Black Tusk, which is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Me too.
And
good band.
So good. And they were fantastic that night. But after that night, I looked at my Instagram, and he'd sent me a picture of myself from the bar of me at the merch table. I didn't even know he was there that night. Like, he was just like hanging out and like just like really weird, creepy shit.
Creepy.
Yeah. And like, man, it was bad. So I looked into like getting a protection order and like all these things.
Sure.
But it was just like it's just real shitty.
Is it de-escalated now?
Yeah, I haven't heard from him.
Let's hope this doesn't.
Yeah, but he caught wind that I was like looking into legal action. I think that
and fucked off.
Luckily, that was enough to get him, because a lot of times it's not.
It's not.
So
it's true.
Anyway, beef burgundy.
Beef burgundy.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah.
We are tangential creatures. So it was my boyfriend in college.
Yeah.
And like he's the person I started drinking with.
Right.
I started like learning how to like wine and like beer and all these things.
Sure.
And he was like, well, French country is the best kind of cuisine, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with
and
that.
it starts with bacon and butter most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So like how you fuck that up. And we made it, and like we made it like pearl onions. We put it on this like great cheesy bread from Publix, and it was just like the experience of it was just the flavors I'd never like encountered together before. Yeah. So that's definitely one of my favorite meals in my memory.
I had it on tour once with a band.
Oh, what? That's amazing.
We crossed the English Channel at night and got to Calais just before dinner time. We were exhausted. We'd been on tour for a while, and we went to this like the French version of Denny's.
Oh my God, that sounds so good.
And there was an enormous flat screen TV so close to us that it hurt your neck to look at it. Like, and it wasn't in any way like it wasn't a tiny house in the French countryside or anything like that. It was just like,
it wasn't quaint.
Just a fucking restaurant in a port city, and they brought me this like terrine of
that's what you wanted in
beef bourguignon.
Was it over rice?
Potatoes.
Fuck. Okay.
And God, it was so good. And it's like that's when I came up with this question, I was thinking about that.
That's
meal.
crazy.
But a lot of it was contextual for me too. I was out with a band that I'm still good friends with everybody in the band, and this amazing tour manager from England, and it was just a great
like a perfect evening. Yeah, I love that. I love a good tour food.
Yeah, and
it's hard sometimes to come by.
An army marches on its stomach, said Napoleon.
That's right. Yeah, very true.
So, second question: what is the most frightened you've ever been?
Oh man. There's a lot of things popping into my brain right now.
Sure.
I was cornered by a guy at a show once, and that I think like that I'm willing to talk about was probably the most I've been afraid in like a band context.
Yeah.
Just because and like he was very aggressive, and like I didn't know what was going to happen, and luckily security. I don't even know if it was security, but somebody was able to come and get him away from me. And
that is one of the sort of downsides for me of the whole punk thing, is that there was a very lawless scene in Atlanta around the big punk venue there. First it was 688, and then it sort of moved to the Metroplex. And man, any given night of the Metroplex, there would be, of course, every like kind of flavor of punk rock or urban, suburban, lots of different ethnicities. It wasn't sort of monolithically white, which was great. But there were also like people who just gotten out of jail, who that was the first bar they encountered, and like people with various levels of various kinds of mental illness or drug issues, and just every kind of person that was sort of marginalized. And sometimes shit got weird, and not in a good way.
Well, and he had been following me all night, kind of like, and I didn't, because I think as women we try and like calm ourselves down, and like sometimes we ignore like our gut.
Have you read The Gift of Fear?
Yes, and that's like where I get like some of my like now like trust your gut. Like I don't even care if it's not real. If it's not real, then all I'm doing is protecting myself potentially. You know, like there's no harm in locking your fucking door while someone walks by.
Right.
If you think that they are potentially going to hurt you, like I'm just in a locked car.
It's okay to be rude.
Yeah, it's exactly, and that's like what I from that book what I got from it.
Do you know Catherine Lukowski?
I don't.
She's Athens. She used to work for the Athens Downtown Development Authority.
Okay.
She carries brass knuckles.
Oh, I carry brass knuckles. I carry a knife. I carry mace. I carry a taser.
You're like the fucking National Guard.
I mean, yeah.
I don't blame you.
It's just one of those things, and like not always, but if I'm walking alone anywhere, I have a bag that has all those things in it.
Yeah.
Just because, like this guy, like I was saying, like I didn't associate him with the show necessarily, but I was walking to get food at some point in that night, and like I felt somebody following me.
Oh God!
Like I look back and like it's Atlanta. It was in Atlanta, and I was like, well, whatever. Like there's a lot of people out here, but like for some reason, like I was aware of this just one person just popped out, and he ended up being the guy later that I had to
I've crossed the street just so I could get a look at somebody.
Yeah, for fucking sure. So
just looked like you were meeting to cross the street, and then if they cross the street, then it's time to start making new decisions.
Yeah, and that's happened to me before. And usually, if they cross and follow me, I'll just turn around at them and just be like,
"What's up?"
Yeah, and if they're really interested in it, then we'll see what happens after that. But usually, they just go the other direction because they're not expecting you to confront them.
Yeah. Third question. What thing have you lost that you miss the most?
That's a really good question. I must think about it for a second. I know you want my like immediate.
No, take all the time you need.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. The thing that I've lost that I miss the most. Probably my grandfather.
Yeah.
It's a person, but.
Tell me about your granddad.
He was a pilot he flew in World War II. But he was a lobbyist. He worked for MARTA. He did just all these great things. But he was just like a really real person.
What was his first name?
James. Yeah. Yeah, he flew planes like even after that. He actually, one of his planes is in the Smithsonian.
No kidding.
Air and Space Museum. Yeah, it's called the Mooney Mite. It's in the Transformers movie.
Really?
Yeah.
How old was he when he passed?
Oh man, I think he was in his 70s.
How old were you when he passed?
I was 8 or 9. I was young.
Oh,
yeah, he died of emphysema from smoking.
He's a smoker,
which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But my grandmother is still alive. She's 92. She turned 92 2 weeks ago.
Did you stay in touch with her?
Yeah, we went to lunch.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. All the women in my family live to be in their 90s.
Cool.
Yeah, which I'm really excited about.
You should keep making records.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I'm going to be really intrigued to hear.
92-year-old Noelle.
Yeah. The 90-year-old Noelle punk record. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite place to gig?
Like venue or city?
Yes.
Okay. I love Atlanta.
Yeah?
I love Atlanta a lot.
Do you have a favorite venue in Atlanta?
Well, they've all changed so much.
They have.
The new Sexy 529 is pretty great.
Oh, I love 529.
I know.
That patio.
I know.
I don't drink anymore, but man, if I did,
yeah,
you'd have to drag me off that patio with a crane.
It's great. So I really like the 529. I loved Wonder Root when it was still a thing. It was just like a dirty basement. My friend Sherman kind of ran the shows down there.
Yeah. SheHeHe does well in Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause spray tan really like the Brony Fest, which is something that I'm a part of now, but one of our first Atlanta gigs our second Atlanta gig was Jabroni Fest.
Yeah.
And we showed up and we got kicked out of the venue that was supposed to host us for various like licensing reasons.
Oh, okay. It wasn't because of your brass knuckles?
No, I had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
They got kicked out before SheHeHe showed up.
Okay.
But so we got we relocated to this guy's basement in the East Village. And that was the first Jabroni Fest. It was supposed to be at a real venue, and it ended up being in this dirty basement. And that's like when we made all of our Atlanta friends. Yeah. And that's why we recorded the Spray Tan. And like, there's my friends Chris Plummer and Delia. Like I have a room in their house that's like Noelle's room. So whenever I go down there, I'm like, can I stay in my room? And they're like, yeah, sure. So it's like friendships like that I think are a big reason I love Atlanta so much. Is just like really good, solid people doing really good work. Amos, my friend Amos, is like one of my closest friends in the world, and he lives there and runs a production company.
There's always been a great Atlanta punk scene.
Yeah, well, his is more metal. Like he's more in the more metal scene, but he does both. And he's just like, we just click on this level that I'm really glad that I met him through. Like we met when we were recording that split with Spray Tan. Yeah. So
Did you ever read a book called Book Your Own Life? Mm-mm. It was a Maximum Rock and Roll kind of spin-off publication that went through a bunch of editions, and it was just like this great handbook. It was pre-internet, so like it was the list of punk promoters in different cities and venues in different cities, and like tips and tricks to people to hook up with, people to avoid.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think the internet made it largely redundant. I think MySpace sort of replaced it. But years ago, I tried to do a similar like wiki for touring bands. That was a list of venues and cities and places near the venue where you could lock a door so you could have some privacy in a bathroom.
Yeah, like where to poop on tour.
Yeah, yeah. It was oh man, somebody came up with really funny. I can't remember what it was now. But man, I wish I could remember. Somebody had a really funny name for that. But
show notes.
But yeah, things like that. But where can you get vegan food near the venue?
Yeah, because both Nicole and Jason are both vegans. So.
Yeah, and where's the nearest decent cup of coffee to the venue?
Mm-hmm.
And I started that, and it went. It was good for a while, but it was just hard to get buy-in. People, like there were me and 4 other people, and so we had the Southeast like nailed.
Yeah, of course, the Southeast corridor.
Yeah, west of like Beaumont, Texas, or north of like Richmond.
Yeah, it's just kinda, black.
Right, we didn't have any. And I couldn't really. Yeah. Oh, and the Wisconsin, there were some guys from Milwaukee who jumped on, and we had a good like northern Midwestern, Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, Chicago thing going. Yeah. But other than that, it was kind of a black hole. Yeah. If visa considerations and income considerations aside, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool place.
It's the most beautiful place on earth that I've seen.
I think that I would just probably like die of acute mango toxicity if I lived there.
So I would retire there, but it is an island, and so like
everything's expensive,
and I think I would just get like a little cabin fevery. Like I like to travel and like just drive and like visit people, and so obviously I'd have friends on the islands, but it's to be landlocked on an island that way. Seems like it'd be hard for me.
Yeah,
but still
hard to tour.
But yeah, hard to tour.
Yeah,
but we have a cabin in Glacier National Park in Montana. My family does.
That sounds cool.
It's fucking incredible. It's the second most gorgeous place on earth.
Yeah.
And it was like bought with like life savings, but all of our friends stay for free up there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's incredible. So that would be the number 2.
You don't fly fish, do you?
I do.
Oh man, I love fly fishing.
Yeah, I haven't done it in years, but I tried it. And I was pretty good at it. Okay, let's do it.
I had dreams about it last night. I dreamed I was throwing these weird little berry flies for carp.
Okay.
People do that. I've never done it, but apparently the carp is like hooking a freshwater bonefish, and so.
Oh wow! Okay.
Pretty crazy, man. We should go fishing. That's cool.
Let's go fish.
And this is the new question. I've only asked it to 2 people so far.
Oh.
What is your perfect musical instrument, and do you own it?
I think I do. Yeah, I think my SG is probably as close to as perfect for me as it would get.
What year?
It's a new one. It's a 60s tribute SG, so it's like
P90s or humbuckers.
Humbuckers.
Cool.
They're burst buckers.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect for what you do.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And like the color is great, and it's just flat black. And I was talking we were making jokes the other day at band practice, as we do, and they were like talking about like signature guitars.
Yeah.
And I was like, mine would just be it would only be bridge pickup, because when the fuck am I ever going to use the other ones?
Right.
The strap would not come off, because I don't ever take my strap off.
Right.
And the strings would just be like resistant to wear, because I never break strings or replace them.
My friend Fez actually
and I get so much shit from people about
Yeah.
it, but this is how I do it. So.
My friend Fez plays flat wound guitar strings. You ever tried that?
Yeah, well, I played an acoustic bass recently for a thing, and they were flat wound.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is weird.
That P bass has flats on it.
Cool. Do you like flats?
I mean, it's a thing, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing.
If I was going to play with your band, I would play a P bass or a PJ and blend those two sounds with regular bass strings. But
yeah.
If I'm going to do like the reason that's here is I've got my Wurlitzer over there and that there, and occasionally I just kind of fake my way through this sort of 60s R&B style stuff.
That's all I ever do is fake my way through anything.
Right. Well,
imposter syndrome is very real.
That's the next show.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my buddy Fez, who I just mentioned.
Yeah.
We're doing a whole hour on imposter syndrome.
It's so real.
It's going to come out on April 1st.
All right. Well, April Fool's Day, it's very apropos.
Right. He contacted me and said, hey, I really want to do
That's a great idea.
On imposter syndrome. And I said, are you sure you're qualified for that?
Oh, buddy. I like it. I love it. I'll definitely listen to it.
Yeah. So I was thinking about making T-shirts with the Gibson, like that ring that goes around the Les Paul pickup that says rhythm lead.
Yeah.
Just the ring, just like the donut with rhythm lead on it, and just that'd be the T-shirt.
That's a great idea.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I just saw one was lying on a counter in a music store I was in, and I was like, that's
out of context. That's kind of great.
Yeah. Yeah. Rhythm lead. Mm-hmm. Well, this has been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great
grateful.
time. Yeah, no, absolutely. Happy to lend a voice to the project. I can't wait to see how it comes out.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, that was great. Man, I like talking to her so much. I like her so much. Thanks for listening. Hey, go see live music in your town. Support bands in your town. Support bands that come to your town. We're all just out here doing the thing that we do. It is a great way to make a lousy living, but it could be a tiny bit better if you came and bought a T-shirt. Just saying. Also, if you do a podcast and what I'm doing might be somehow relevant to what you're doing, man, come on. I will come and speak on your podcast. I would love to. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I've got an interview coming up with Thor Harris I'm super stoked about. I mean, he is king of the sad boys, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him. That'll be out sometime in May, and he's in Europe with SheHeHe right now, so we haven't had a chance to talk. But that's coming up. Once again, I'm going to remind everybody that if you're having a bad time and you're depressed and you're anxious and you're having thoughts of self-harm, you can always call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 1-800-273-8255. It's 24/7. It's free and it's confidential. 1-800-273-8255. Also, the thing I'm sort of learning from these interviews is that if you have a friend and they seem like they're depressed, there's a strong possibility they're depressed. Reach out. Touch base with your friends and loved ones. Make sure they're okay, because we need everybody here. So stick around. Be here tomorrow, and remember, loud guitars save lives.